I think,
What are we
but there's
saying?
also fundamentally a major misunderstanding of China in this country.
Say more.
And let me tell you what the major misunderstanding is. You've seen that China was ruled by Communist Party in 1949, ruled by Communist Party in 1979, it'll be ruled by Communist Party 2019, and you assume that China hasn't changed. It's still being run by the same Communist Party. But the Chinese Communist Party has obviously changed fundamentally. I mean, I went to China for the first time in 1980. When I went to China for the first time in 1980, the Chinese people didn't have the freedom. They couldn't choose what to wear. They all wore Maoist suits.
Yeah.
They couldn't choose where to live, where to work, what to study. And certainly zero Chinese could travel overseas. Zero. Now you go back to China. The Chinese people can choose what to wear, where to live, where to work, where to study. And guess what? Every year, 120 million Chinese, right? I think it's more than the population in California. 120 million Chinese leave China freely as tourists. Amazingly, 120 million Chinese return to China freely. Now, if China was a communist, gulag, Stalinist state, would you go back to China? And so there's a complete misunderstanding of China. Clearly, while the political freedoms in China haven't increased, the personal freedoms of the Chinese people has exploded. And I can tell you, one of the questions that future historians will be very puzzled by is the judgments made by America on China. And I'll tell you why they'll be puzzled. The United States of America is about 240 years old. Chinese history maybe 2,400 years old. In today's world, you have a society which is 240 years old, passing judgment on a society which is 2,400 years old, and at a time when China has had its best 30 years of history, the Americans are telling Chinese, you guys are not doing very well. Really, you should change your political system. Listen to us, become a democracy, all will be well with you. And I can tell you one thing, that Chinese leaders, there's a whole shades of opinion among them. The one complete point of agreement that they all have is that they saw what happened to the Soviet Communist Party. They saw what happened to the Soviet Union. They saw what happened to Russia. It went overnight to a democracy. Guess what? The Russian economy imploded. Life expectancy came down. Infant mortality went up. The Russian people suffered. And the Chinese said, this is what happens when you have an instant democracy. So when the Chinese said, give us time, let us transform our political system in our own way, I said, let them do it. Why do you think that you would know better what's good for them? Does that reflect the fact that for 200 years you got used to doing it, telling the world how they should behave, and therefore you think you can be a better judge of the rest of the world? So that judgmental character in the West has got to adapt to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world today is less willing to be judged by you.